So there's a writer who captures our need to trust God when he writes this. Listen to what he writes. This is good stuff. He says, you're a soul made by God. You're a soul made for God and made to need God, which means that you are not made to be self-sufficient. Now, I want to read that one more time. Think about it. You are a soul made by God, made for God, and made to need God, which means you are not made to be self-sufficient. Trusting in ourselves, our achievements, our accomplishments, that's a losing proposition. Great men and women of God were people of faith. They trusted God. Abraham trusted God's leading even when he didn't know where he was going. Check this out. Hebrews chapter 11, 8 through 10. By faith, Abraham obeyed when he was called to go out to a place that he was to receive an inheritance. And he went out not knowing where he was going. By faith, he went to live in the land of promise as in a foreign land, living in tents with Isaac and Jacob, heirs with him of the same promise. For he was looking forward to a city that has foundations, whose designer and builder is God. Oh, man, there's so much to that passage. So God called Abraham to leave everything he knew, leave his country, leave his people, leave his family. And the instruction was really vague. Go from your country to the land I will show you. Go to the land. You don't know where you're going, but I'll show you. The promise was certain. I'm going to make you a great nation and I will bless you. So Abraham did what God told him to do. And by the way, he was 75 years old when God put this call on his life. Abraham wasn't concerned about foregoing, pleasure trips or golf outings or time with grandchildren. Okay, none of those things are wrong, but God put a call on Abraham's life. Let's be clear. God's direction to Abraham was not based on blind faith. The call included certainty. Remember, Abraham moved out on the knowledge of God's promised blessing. Abraham moved out with heartfelt agreement that God could deliver on his promises. Remember, Abraham had 75 years of history with God. And Abraham moved out with a certainty that although he did not know where he was going, God did. That's all I needed to know. God knew where he was going. And God told Abraham to go to the land I will show you. God knew the destination. That was all Abraham needed to know. One more thing. Abraham moved out. Moving out of the darkness into the light means moving, means going, means moving forward, making progress, being on the journey. By faith, Abraham obeyed God. And by faith, we can obey God as well. So, Father, give us open ears to hear what you're calling us to do and give us courage to do it. Help us to step out on faith, even when we don't know where we're going, but we step out on faith because we know you know where you're taking us. And that's all we need to know. That's all we need to know. Thank you in Jesus' name. Stepping out on faith, following God. It's hard, isn't it? But God knows where he's taking us. And at the end of the day, that's all we need to know. Thanks so much for joining us as we continue to look at these passages that unwrap the hope we have in Jesus.